Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dave Colcott, President of M&P. We are going to get started with our presentation pretty quickly here. We'll get our presenter shared the screen. I've got to get our host to be able to do that. As soon as we get that going, we'll be able to start the program. So sit back, relax, and we'll have some fun today.
Hello, everyone. This is Samantha with M&P. I do just want to provide a courtesy notice to the group. Friendly reminder, this presentation is being recorded, including your verbal participation and any comments that you may drop in the chat. Please feel free to utilize the chat functionality, or you can certainly contact myself or President Colcott outside of this presentation if you prefer to participate in an offline method. With that, I think we are ready to turn it over to Mr. Dippin.
Hi, everybody. Just want to make sure you can hear me okay. And I want to thank you for allowing me to take your lunch hour here and talk about the HRV benefit and make sure you're able to see my screen sharing at this time. If someone would just let me know, that'd be great.
We can see it fine.
Okay, so today's topics we'll be talking about, what is this HRA anyway, some plan benefits, some qualified expenses on what you can use the account for, how to use it through the claim submission process. I'll show you what the participant portal, so if you're ever to have an HRA VEBA account, what your experience on the portal will look like a little bit, and then talk about our customer care center team that's located right here in Spokane. That's for the entire VEBA Trust. So with that, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about what the IRS terms are for this plan. And it's called a health reimbursement arrangement, which means that the plan pays you back for out-of-pocket health care costs now or in the future, depending on the. Most groups have their VEBA available, their HRA, at any time. So each individual has the ability to have access right away. But there are some HRAs that are set up to be post-employment only, and that's up to the employee group and with the city flexible as far as how you want to design the plan, and I'll talk to that a little bit later. So these are called account-based group health plans. So every individual who participates has their own individual account, and you as an individual then take those funds that are in your account and invest those and then use them for out-of-pocket healthcare costs. And the biggest benefit of an HRA, if you're taking notes, is it's triple tax-free. The money goes in tax-free, your investment earnings are tax-free, and then they come out tax-free. And oftentimes accounts are called VEBAs. And the reason why they use these account names as VEBAs is because that the trust was established before the IRS rules were established. Getting a message here that my call is coming in and out, so I'm going to change headsets here, if that's okay. And see if we can get an improvement on that. Sorry about that. Does that sound better?
We can hear you loud and clear, Rich.
Okay, thank you. All right. So let me see if there's anything. Okay. So that's what the HRA, the VEBA is. It's a health reimbursement arrangement. And for some reason, oh, there we go. So why you would want an HRA, primarily we look at the HRA as a way to save money now, invest those dollars now, and then use them in retirement. And I've been working on the HRA since I left government years ago. And one of the things that we've been able to do is gather a lot of data on what the cost of retiree health care is. And on average in Washington, a public service employee and themselves, if they retire today at age 55, they'll probably spend during their retirement years over $350,000 on insurance premiums. And as we get closer to Medicare eligibility, that cost, of course, comes down. So in this example, 2 people retiring today at age 65, on the Medicare, buying Medicare Part B, which is now $148.50 a month, and then a Medicare supplement plan. Usually that's about $150 a person too for a very good Medicare supplement plan. So we're looking at about $300 per month per person, or $600 for a couple. And if we look over the span of retirement years, that's going to be over $180,000 for most people. So that exists for the most part is to try to save and be able to pay for those expenses tax-free. So how do you get money in, and who's eligible for the contribution? So eligibility, as far as being eligible to have money go into the account, and what type of funding sources or how we're going to have money go into the account, is up to the employee group. So it'd be your group and the city to set those rules. I have to give you the bad news because we have to stay in compliance with the IRS rules. And the IRS main rules are that there's no individual choice. So you as an individual can't say, hey, I want to have this money go into my HRA account and I want to have this other money go to me in cash. But what can be set up is by employee group, you decide as a group what funds will go in and what funds would be paid out in cash. So to talk about what type of funds can go into the account, what we commonly see across the state is unused leave cash outs. So for M&P, looked at the rules for unused leave cash outs, so your sick leave or vacation leave cash outs. If you were to be like some of the other employers around the Northwest that have their unused sick leave go into the account at retirement, your rules are in your contract that it's 60% up to 960 hours of unused sick leave is converted. Now, if that were to go into VEBA, that would be a maximum of 576 hours that could go in tax-free. And I took an example of, if you're making $50 an hour now, and you were to retire and have 576 hours cashed out, that would be $28,800. And if you don't have the VEBA in place and you had tax on that, that's probably going to be personal income tax of about 22%. And then the FICA, you're looking at walking away in your pocket about $20,000. It's $20,160. So if that were to go into VEBA, you would save about $8,000 in savings, $8,700 in savings roughly, would make that leave cash out tax-free. And that's why a lot of groups decide at retirement, not necessarily, cashing out leave for someone who's just leaving service and maybe they're going to take a job elsewhere. I know when I moved back from California, my last finance job at a municipality, I used my unused leave, even though I had to pay 40% in state income tax and FICA on that. I used that amount to help me move back to Spokane. So it's mostly sick leave cash out at retirement is why unused leave. And then if you were to consider vacation leave as a possible funding method, I know you have a maximum of 434 hours, 434.30 hours for retirees. Typically, if you're have been with the city for a long time, that would cash out. And if I use that same $50 an hour example, we're looking at $21,715, and then after paying tax, around $15,200 in your pocket. Again, that's the number one funding method that a lot of groups use and why they do that. Some groups also have excess benefit dollars. If their employer says, this is your benefit allowance for the month, and if you don't spend all your benefit dollars, then those go into the VEBA. That's a very common funding method. Another one is if you're waiving off city coverage. Some cities do allow a split on that savings. So let's say it costs $700 a month to have you on the city's medical plan, but if you waive off and go on to your spouse's plan, you might receive $350 a month to help offset any out-of-pocket healthcare costs that you may incur. That's a very common methodology. Another one, many groups, including the community college, many of the school districts in town, have a mandatory group contribution from the employee groups. They decide to take part of their pay, maybe either a fixed dollar or a fixed percentage of pay, and put it into the HRA tax-free that way. If you're going to consider that type of a funding method, I do want to say, make sure if you're doing a percentage of pay, you set it so that it's large enough that the account will build up over time. Because there are costs to run the account, I wouldn't recommend anything less than something that would equal $25 a month. That would be my recommendation, to have it at least $25 a month as a part of a mandatory employee contribution. Some cities and counties also have a wellness benefit. So if you participate in the wellness plan, you get a VEBA contribution there. And then another thing to consider is a part of a future COLA increase. So when times get better and tax rates go up, if there's some potential salary increase, you could, as a group, negotiate to have part of that go into a VEBA account. I've seen that quite recently when all the school districts went to a one pay system statewide. Many groups got a large salary increase, and they decided to put part of that into a VEBA account. So I'm often asked, what's the difference between tax-free versus tax-deferred? I mean, we can set aside money out of our own pocket and defer the taxation on those until we start using them in retirement. And the reason why there's a big difference between the two is because once you start pulling funds out of most tax-deferred plans, like 457, 403B, 401k, you'd have to pay tax on those. Unless, of course, it's a Roth IRA and you pay the tax up front. But let's just assume you have $50,000 set aside in a tax deferred versus the VEBA tax exempt. When you start pulling those funds out, and in this example, we just said about pulling out $500 a month to pay for medical expenses during retirement, and both plans are earning the same investment, let's say 5% net return to you, the HRA would last over 40% longer. And that's, you know, one thing to consider when you're saying, well, you know, we can use this and then put it into tax deferred. Tax exempt typically is always better than tax deferred. And a question I got is, if you have a balance over 1,500 hours, is it 60%? Otherwise, it's 40% if you retire or pass away. 25% if you lose service in good standing. Thanks for the clarification on that, Dave. I appreciate it. I must have misread the part of the contract on that. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me advance a little bit too much. So again, I want to talk about the key benefits, which is you pay no tax. That's 7.65% FICA plus any personal income tax. So both the city and you save the FICA, and you save any personal income tax. That's what makes it a win-win benefit. It helps employees, especially those if you have any members that are feeling like they can't afford to retire because retiree health care is so much. It helps them retire on time. This trust is governed by and for cities, counties, and public tax districts here in the Northwest. So it's run by and for the members. Also, I want to point out that it's the only trust that I'm aware of that can pass on to what's called non-dependent heirs. And that means you can, if you were to pass away with money in the account, it would go, of course, to your spouse and any dependents. But the HRA VEBA trust got an exception to the standing rule that said the accounts would have to be forfeited if you had no spouse or dependents. The HRA VEBA can actually pass on to other family members or someone else that you might want to have inherit your account. And for you, of course, no taxation. You're able to use your account as soon as you become claims eligible. And with that, what we mean is if the city allows for in-service benefit, you can use it right away, or continue to save at retirement. If they say if you want, your group wants to set it up to be post-employment only, we want to make sure that our members don't access these accounts till they retire, because that's how we want to set up the account. We can do that as well. Each member, though, has their own individual choice to where to invest these funds from a menu of investment options. And if you want to look and see what the current investment options are, you can just go to hraveba.org and you'll see the investments as well as their return information there too. We update that quarterly. The benefits also include that there's no use it or lose it provision. You can save these funds up over the course of your entire career and only touch them in retirement. So there's not a carryover limitation. There's also not a maximum contributional amount that can go in. Some tax exempt plans do limit how much you can put in. The IRS does not do IRAs. And as I mentioned, you can go ahead and have these funds pass on to other folks if you do pass away with money still in your account. So you might be wondering, what can you use these accounts for? HRAs can cover any qualified out-of-pocket healthcare cost under the IRS's rules. They say as long as it's not for cosmetic or general health, if it's actually for the treatment of some sort of illness, injury, or disease, you can use your account. And that includes office visit copays, any medical, dental, vision plan deductibles, or just expenses. A lot of folks use their HRA VEBA account to cover the cost of picking up prescriptions. That's a very useful way to use your account. Others use it for things like glasses and contacts. A lot of folks, especially police and fire, have used their account over the years for LASIK and other eye treatments so that they improve their vision. I know a lot of folks use their VEBA account to pay for their cell or maybe their kids' orthodontia. And then, of course, when we retire, being able to use those accounts in retirement is awesome as well. So there are a lot of ways to get money out of your account. The fastest and easiest way for retirees is what's called the automatic premium reimbursement, where you just show us once what your insurance premium is. Let's say you're transitioning onto Medicare after you retire, and your Medicare Part B will come out of your Social Security, and then you'll pick up a Medicare supplement plan. We can automatically reimburse you for those or any other qualified health plan after you leave service. And we can set it up so you just show us once what that cost is, and then every month we can just send you money out of your account until your account is exhausted. I know thousands of folks who have used their account that way, loved it. It's like the old Ron Popeil, set it and forget it. I don't know if you remember that rotisserie chicken thing, turkey thing that he did on, well, shows you how old I am. Anyway, just set it and then we'll send you the money out of the account. But we also have newer ways. A lot of people use their account by the mobile app called HRA Go. And you can just take a picture of supporting documentation. Let's say you went to the hospital or the doctor, and then you get this statement from your insurance company that says this is not a bill. Just take a picture of that, and then we can reimburse you for the cost of that coverage. Another thing you can use is a free benefits card, and that's a way to just automatically pay for services. It works really great at picking up prescriptions because we won't ask for supporting documentation. So you just swipe your card and you're done. But for other things, if you were to go to the hospital or maybe go to the doctor or dentist or optometrist, because they all do cosmetic things, we do need, in most cases, supporting documentation. But you can still use your card, swipe your card, and then provide supporting documentation later. Most people use the HRA Go mobile app to provide that supporting documentation. We still have traditional paper claim forms if you want to do that as well, and just uploading documentation via the online portal, the participant portal. And there's more information on that at the Trust website. Again, that's hraveba.org. Just quick snap here of the investment options. I talked to you and said you have investment options. There are options, either a pre-mixed portfolio. A lot of people would rather have a pre-mixed portfolio built by an investment advisory group, and the trust uses an investment advisor. I think the same either as the city or maybe the county is our investment advisory group, and they came up with 4 pre-mixed portfolios, and you can choose one of those pre-mixed portfolios. Or if you'd rather build your own portfolio, you can do that. And we have 7 different individual assets that funds that you can invest in, from a guaranteed investment called the stable value into some international equity. So you can mix and match. Another thing is you can change your mind as often as monthly. There's no extra cost for reallocating or changing your funds too. The customer care center is right here in town. Their toll-free number is 1-888-659-8828. Or you can email them at customercare@hraveba.org, or just log into hraveba.org and get their contact information there. If you're like me, I don't remember all the 888 numbers, but I do remember hraveba.org, and I can jump in there. Now, that's what I have for slides. And we have a few minutes, so what I'll do is I'll stop sharing and then see if there are any questions. If you want to unmute yourself, if you can do that, I don't know the feature, you can go ahead and let me know. Let's see. Question was, I have a VEBA account from a previous employer. If we decide to create the same opportunity at the city, is existing VEBA account portable? So here's what happens under the IRS rules for having a VEBA account and then a new VEBA account. Your existing VEBA account has to stay as that account. But the good news is the administrative costs that you're paying will not be more. So let's say you have a VEBA account and you have access to it currently, you're paying $1.50 a month unless your account is above $5,000, then you're not paying that $1.50 a month. And let's say you have $3,000 in your account now, and then so you're paying the $1.50 a month, and then you have a city account, you will not also pay an additional $1.50 a month. We add the total together to make one account fee. Can we get a copy of the presentation? You can have a copy of the PowerPoint.
This video will be posted to the M&P website. Rich, if you are comfortable, perhaps we will also make just the presentation available that way as well.
Sure.
Great.
I don't mind.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I don't want to take more time unless there's more questions.
We do have one more question in the chat. What happens when you retire from your employer?
Okay. When you retire, 100% vested, you can take your account with you. So as money comes in, it's yours. It's not ever at risk of, staying with your employer, it's yours. It's portable. You can take it anywhere in the world and use it for any qualified, IRS qualified healthcare costs, and that includes, even any treatment that you might see. That's, as long as it's allowable, then you can go ahead and use your account for that. Even if it is experimental, as long as it's allowable, we can go ahead and reimburse you. We have a lot of people retired all over the world that are using their VEBA account for their retiree health insurance. So it's not tied to, staying within, let's say, Washington or Idaho or Oregon. And if you have any questions about another VEBA account and you want to talk about that, you can feel free to give me a call or call the customer care center. And then if as a group you have any additional questions or want help with dialing in contribution methods, I'll let your leadership just reach out to me or work through the city and reach out to me. But if you have your own individual questions, you can go ahead and ask me about those.
Looks like we did get one more question in the chat. Did you say it's up to the employer and employee group to determine a vesting period, or is vesting automatic?
Usually vesting is automatic. I've never had a vesting period put in place at the city. The city could ask for your group to have a vesting period, but they haven't done that in the past. And as far as vesting, there's very few that require vesting. City of Boise does come to mind. Theirs is a post-employment only plan, so their employees can only they can only use their account after they've separated from service, and they have a 5-year requirement. You have to stay with the city before you're vested, but typically it is automatic. Is there requirements? Are there requirements starting using at any age? No, there's no requirement for you to start using the account. I will point out, though, the trust was not established just to pass on to other family members and never use the account. It is set up to benefit you, your spouse, your dependents, but transfer over to non-dependent heirs. And because it is an employer-provided benefit, really it is to help you pay for out-of-pocket healthcare costs for you and your immediate family. Another question is, my understanding correct that if I want an HRA account, we have to join as a group. We can't create an individual HRA account separate from the group. Molly, that's right. You cannot set up your own individual HRA account. That is one of the downsides of the IRS rules. No individual choice and no individual contribution amount. If the city doesn't create a VEBA, can we join from another organization? If that organization has VEBA, yes, you would be able to participate through that other organization. So if you went to work for like a school district or the community colleges who make monthly contributions, you would get a VEBA account that way. Or if you, let's say you went over to Post Falls or Coeur d'Alene and worked for those cities, then you get it that way too. Samantha, Dave, so there's one more question, sorry. So as a group, either standard or post-separation HRA was a question. And yes, as a group, you'd have to decide whether you want to have standard, being that you can use the account now, or save it to be post-separation only HRA. And while we're talking about that, there is a difference in cost. The monthly fee, the $1.50 a month on the standard account, is only 75 cents if you make it a post-separation account. And both those monthly fees are waived once you get above 5,000 in your account. So if you were say, if that's a consideration, if you're looking at doing a monthly contribution and you want to make sure, like you're doing a percentage of pay and you want the lowest possible fees, you might consider as a group saying we want post-separation. But what I found is most people want the flexibility to decide whether or not to use it now or save it for retirement. So that's a key factor there. Well, I am 6 minutes over. I'm happy to stay on, but I don't want to make people feel like they have to stay on if they have no questions. Question was, can you have a monthly contribution and deposit sick leave when you retire? Yes. You can have different funding methods, be it a monthly contribution, sick leave cash out, wellness incentive, COLA, or other leave cash outs going in. All are different, and you can have as many contribution methods as the group decides on. Can an individual decide to put in over than the required minimum into the account? No, an individual can't decide on how much to put into the account. If you want to do more than what your group is saying they will do, the IRS says, no, that's a no-no. Sorry about that.
Okay, hopefully if we have any more questions, go ahead and ask those now. If not, you can still also get hold of Rich and get those answers to your questions. You can also email one of the M&P board members. Want to make sure. Oh, there's another question that came up, so I'll let that go to Rich.
Okay, Dave. Is there a way to roll unspent flex dollars into your HRA at the end of the year? Well, no. The FSA dollars or flex dollars, the IRS rules for those, except for this year, they're giving a little bit of extra leeway due to COVID. But typically, you have to use your flex dollars. It's a use it or lose it program that does allow you to, as an individual, set aside dollars. With the VEBA, the HRA cannot receive flex dollars unless the employer were to take unspent flex dollars from everyone and then reallocate them as an HRA contribution. So as an individual, though, that doesn't benefit you. Let's say you had $500 that you'd be losing in your flex, goes back to the city, and then gets reallocated among 500 members. That would be everyone gets $1 of your 500. So it's typically best to use your flex dollars and use those because it's use it or lose it. The one thing you can do is if your group is going to do a monthly VEBA contribution, let's say you decide we're going to put in $50 a month, and you're doing flex, and you really feel like, okay, I'm doing flex and I'm putting in $100 a month in my flex, and that's all I was planning on doing this year. Now my group is saying I have to do 50 in VEBA. Well, you could decide to just do 50 in your flex and 50 in VEBA. Use your flex first, of course, because that's usually to lose it. But once you're through your flex, then you would have some dollars saved up in your VEBA account. The next question, DOT pays 25% of sick leave in the VEBA at retirement. Is this common? Yes. The 25% conversion rate of unused leave is common. It is the requirement of all state agencies and school districts. They set that. But then cities, counties, and special purpose tax districts like fire districts and water districts, they all decide what level of conversion that they have. So 60% is a higher conversion than the 25.
And of course, the 60% is based off of the balance you have at that time. And based on the balances, I'm not sure how many people will ever get to that full 60%, but that's a goal for some people.
Yep. Yep.
Any more questions? Okay, well, I'd like to thank Rich for being able to come in and talk to us today. This is something that the M&P Board Benefits Committee and the negotiations team are looking very strongly at. So we will be looking to get comment from the membership to how we want to potentially move forward with this. We've heard some very good things about this from those who have had these in the past and with other associations, with other companies, with other cities or jurisdictions. We do want to be able to make sure that it is all or nothing. So we want to be able to make sure that we can address the concerns of all the membership if we're to move forward with this. So with that, if there's nothing else, oh, there we go. Another question.
So the question, yeah, I see that. Roll unused sick leave, does everyone have to roll? Everyone who's eligible, so you'd have to work as a group, would have to roll. I mentioned that for those people like myself who left before retirement eligibility might want to have their unused sick leave cashed out for cash in order to move on to their next career. And that's very common. Typically, the eligibility is only for those who are retiring. So if you're not retiring, then you would get your sick leave cash out in the form of cash. If you are retiring, then it would go into your VEBA account.
So the big takeaway there, Rich, just to summarize, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is really that however the association chooses to structure our VEBA, whether or not a member supported the way that we chose to structure the program, they would have to participate, correct? Everyone has
Correct.
to participate according to the structure that we determine, however that looks.
Yep, the IRS has ruled several times and made it clear, in order to stay tax-free for everybody, we can't allow for individual choice to participate if you're eligible. The next one was, does everyone have to participate in the benefit? For everyone, if you're not eligible to participate, you can't participate. If you are eligible to participate, you must participate, is the way I try to break it down as easy as possible to understand. If the funding method includes you, you're going to have an HRA VEBA account. If it doesn't, then you can't.
Okay, let's see if there's any more questions. And Rich, we had this actually set up for an hour, so there's plenty of time for questions
Oh,
and answers as well. So
well,
no,
that's
no
great.
problem. But I know everybody's looking at reading at things between bites and things like that. So I just want to give a couple more minutes, see if anybody else has more questions. We will be doing some more information and some more surveying of the membership to see if we want to move forward with this.
And as you already pointed out, Dave, this is one of a litany of items for consideration amongst our benefits committee. I did just want to mention to people that the next meeting of that committee is actually on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. So easy for everyone to remember. If you have an interest in the benefits committee, the information around attending that session is available out on the M&P website. They are happy to have your feedback, answer questions, and the same is true of any M&P board member, as President Colcott already indicated.
Well, it looks like we answered all the questions, at least to this point. I know that more people, as they think about it, are going to have more questions. So be sure to get a hold of us. And we hope to be able to do some more presentations with this type of information from now on. There is a comment that when we decide on this, it would be helpful to know if our medical premium costs will go down or not. No, I don't think the medical costs are ever going to go down the way things are going. But we have to take a look at all the whole things that do that. I'm kind of intrigued in what Richard did bring up and saying, well, if you're doing the FSA, you could put half of the amount in the FSA and the other part into the HRA. So there is some ways that you can move some of the funding around that you may be doing now. We'll be able to take a look at that for everybody, but not everybody has the one thing or not. There, Rich, there's another question for you.
Okay. Let's see. I got a pop-up. Somebody emailed. My boss was emailing me. It popped up. If the group signs for the standard HRA, does that act similar to a flex account and you can use the dollar's current medical expenses, but you don't have to use the money accrues in your account for future medical costs? Keep getting these pop-ups. In that case, there is a maximum amount you can spend each year. Okay. So if you get the standard account, you can use it like a flex account in the fact that you can start using it right away for current out-of-pocket healthcare costs. So that's yes. And that's what a lot of people do. They may use part, or life happens, they may need to use all of it. But if you can accrue and keep those dollars in your account for future costs, you can continue to use that. There's no use it or lose it provision in the HRA. And there's no maximum amount you could spend. You can spend your entire balance in the future, or wait and take out as much as or as little as you want, as long as you have some supporting costs for that. I know a lot of people, especially state employees and school district employees, use their VEBA account from their sick leave cash out to pay for part of their insurance premiums, because we're up over $1,000 a month on average for retiree health care. They may take half of what that cost is and be reimbursed to make their VEBA account stretch longer. But if you have a cost that you want to be reimbursed for, if you have the standard plan, you can use the full amount in your account at any time. Another thing is, if your group decides to do a monthly contribution and you have a large expense, so let's say you're putting $50 a month in and you have an out-of-pocket expense of $1,000, what we'll do is we'll exhaust your account to pay you back that portion that we can. Let's say you had $500 in your account, we'd pay you back $500. And as new contributions come in, you won't have to file a new claim. We'll just automatically keep paying off that $1,000 expense and reimburse you back for that total amount. So that makes it easier to, get money out of your account. As soon as it comes in, we'll pull it right back out to you.
Just wait a couple more minutes, we'll get another good question.
Dave, one question that came up by the county that I haven't seen here is, could we exclude a particular subgroup from our group for participation? The county asked if they could exclude TRICARE folks from mandatory leave cash outs at retirement because they're going to have the retired military, they're going to be on TRICARE. They're only going to have to pay $148.50 a month for Medicare Part B. Could we say that we're not going to have their leave cash out going to VEBA? And I work with our compliance team on that, and the answer is yes. So we could have actually a subset rule for eligibility that would carve out if you wanted to as a group to not make TRICARE folks participate.
Interesting question. Okay. Well, looks like we're pretty much down. I don't think we have any more questions at this point. So I know as soon as I say that, somebody else will pop one in. So go ahead and do that if you need to. But I think we're kind of getting down to the end of it here. And I want to thank you as participating for sitting in, listening to this. We had about 80 people at the maximum amount. See, I knew this happened. So we got another question.
Okay. The question was an HSA question with the HRA. Can you have an HSA and still have an HRA? And the answer is yes. For HSAs, the requirement the IRS says is you have to be on a high deductible healthcare plan and not have any other plan that can provide first dollar coverage. So how do we comply with that and have the HRA? For those folks who have that HSA, we would, if whoever's on that HSA plan, we would limit their eligibility to process medical claims. We'd still do dental and vision until that HSA plan has met its deductible. So what we do is the participants that have this case, and there are some of them, you just go in and limit your claims eligibility to dental vision only while making or receiving a contribution to the HSA before meeting your deductible. So there is information on that, and I'm happy to provide that over to Dave and Samantha or whoever at the city, or if you want to email me, I can send you, it's a multi-page document, walks through that coordination rule. Next question. The participation requirement be for individuals who aren't a member of MMP but covered by MMP contract, opt-ed out individuals. That would be something internally you would have to discuss whether or not those individuals would get this type of same benefit if they're not MMP members.
Yeah, that's a discussion we're going to have with where things are going with the Janus decision, because there's even though they're not members, they share benefits. So there's some things we'll have to take a look at that, and that'll be a good question we'll move forward.
Okay. I do have some history with this under the Janus decision. Most employers throughout the state have said if you're in a position that gets the same benefits as those who are in dues-paying members of a collective bargaining group, but because your position is that you would get the same benefits, then typically what's happened in all the school districts, and we've had a lot of people have decided not to participate actively in their unions, have had the same benefit, i.e. their sick leave cash out or vacation or the monthly contribution, the same as those people that are dues paying members, and the same with what we call the classified employees, the non-teachers, same thing. But again, that would be something internally that you would have to decide. But for most public employers I've seen, now that we have the Janus decision, is that you still have that same level of benefits as everyone else.
Oh, we're getting closer to 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Rich, thank you so much for your participation with this. We appreciate it. I know you've done a couple other presentations for the association, so it's great to have you back. We will be taking a strong, hard look at this, and we'll probably be talking to you fairly soon about what we could do or how we could set something of this up, but we are going to hear from our members as well. So if there's any other last minute questions, fine. If not, we're going to go ahead and end the presentation, and thank you everybody for sitting and listening.
And thank everybody. Thank you all for letting me speak to you today. I appreciate the time we had, and great questions. I'm here if you need me.
Thank you, Rich.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, Patty.